Kristin, the silence of Republicans in the face of the abuse of the pardon power by your president, Republican president, is not a surprise because he's got the party cowed on almost everything. But shouldn't we live in a country where these pardons are scrutinized in a way rather than just Donald Trump can now pardon whoever he wants? Haven't we crossed some crazy line where there's just even the press is barely scrutinizing these anymore?
Well, I would say the press is not touching them because they know how egregious the Biden pardon was. I mean, we could go and you can, it's been done in previous administrations as well, Scooter Libby, you can go back to President Ford, pardoning Nixon. I mean, they have always kind of had a healthy amount of scrutiny around these pardons. However, the last minute breaking of the promise of not to pardon his son, pardoning his, family members that frankly Americans had never heard of before for crimes spanning 14 years. I think even the media won't touch Trump's pardons because they don't want to talk about how egregious that was. So that really has changed the discussion around these. We can argue whether or not President Biden had the right to pardon his family or why he did. We can certainly have that debate. I just don't think that it matters because the truth of it is that changed, that's reset the entire process. Because now, Trump has not pardoned anyone along those lines. Or for
he just pardoned someone after the guy's mom gave him $1 million. I mean,
well, they're Trump supporters. I don't know if you can say one is against the other. You'd have to go back and look and see how many of Biden or Clinton's or however many
All right, let's do it as a hypothetical. Say you're senior advisor to the president, and the president says the council says we're thinking of pardoning this person, and somebody says, "Well, Mr. President, you just took $1 million from that person's mom." Would you say, Mr. President, probably not a good time to pardon that person? Or you'd say, well, what does it matter?
I mean, it would probably depend on what other things you needed to talk about that day, but probably would have raised it as, hey, this could be a potential issue. However, I mean, we forget who we're dealing with here in terms of, the amount of cases and persecution that President Trump had been under through the entire campaign last year. It does create a different lens. It does give him a different position versus any other president. The fact that, liberal courts and I mean, he was indicted on 34 counts. I mean, that is why people continue to rally against him. So I think he does get a little bit more leeway on this type of thing because the general view, and I think, a huge factor in why he surged to top of the polls when he did, is because Americans felt that he was being victimized, was being persecuted by the system itself. And so I think he does get a little bit more wiggle room. And frankly, I don't see a lot of people freaking out about who he pardons, this and that. Those two factors, the fact that Trump himself had been persecuted for over a year, and the fact that Biden really, really, abused the system on his way out the door, I think keeps this to the, the side where people don't really give it that much attention. And I would advise Democrats not to get hyperbolic about it, just like, obsessing over who Trump apparently is bullying or not, the words he uses. I mean, let it roll. If Democrats are focused on tweets and who he's pardoning and not focused more on the fact that they have to pay $20 million to learn how to talk to white men, I mean, they're never going to get out of this ditch. And more states will start to look like Tennessee that were once Democrat and shifting to Republicans. I mean, it's not the fight that Democrats should be taking because no one really cares.
Mark, what about Trump pardoning his son-in-law's father and then making him an ambassador? That hardly got any attention.
Yeah, I agree. But I think they both so abused the pardon power that everybody's tribal about it now. And I respect both of you a great deal. And I listen closely to what you said. And I say this with respect. And you two aren't the only ones who would fit this. It's become so partisan. I agree that Donald Trump was improperly prosecuted. And it's not just my opinion. It's the view of almost every liberal legal analyst who looked at it. But I don't think that gives him carte blanche to pardon people who give him $1 million. And I agree that the Biden family had reason to believe that there would be potentially future prosecutions of the Biden family because of the congressional investigations and because of Donald Trump's history. But I don't think that gives him carte blanche to pardon his family, a preemptive pardon going back 10 years, unprecedented in American history, after he promised not to pardon his son repeatedly. So that's what troubles me because I see why both sides feel the way they do, but it's no way to run a railroad.
Hey, did you like that conversation? Well, you can be part of the Two-Way community. Join us live for interactive conversations like no other. Go to twoway.tv. You can also watch anytime. Hit the subscribe button and watch our two-way clips and full episodes whenever your time allows.